Hello everyone, I am Bradley Sward, Associate Professor of Computer and Information Science at the College of DuPage in Glen Ellen, Illinois. And this video today is going to take a look into a few activities related to what we professionally, I guess, call repetition statements. But I didn't know that until I was teaching this stuff. We know it as the loops, right? Like the while loops, the do-while loops. And this doesn't go into for loops, but we will go into for loops in another example, another activity. And probably next week or in just another video, depending on where you're coming from. So I have an example here. So this problem here is just asking me to run this a few times and try it out. And this one's kind of confusing for some students because it's like, well, what's wrong with it? Well, there's many things wrong with it depending on where you're coming from with your perspective on things. And since I'm a little more, I push a little more into, being prim and proper with your code and your outputs and your inputs and things like that. It's a little different for me than it might be for you. But let's just take a look. Let me run this program. So this program is asking me enter a letter. And first off, I do not like how maybe this is just me personally, but when I see a blinking cursor on a line by itself, I wonder what's going on. I wonder if my program's actually running, if it's like maybe it's stuck in a loop. Is it processing something? So what I like to do here, let me just fix this up before I do anything else, is just kind of get rid of this end line here. And then I personally like to put like a colon and a space whenever I can. Please enter a letter. But just so the user knows that there's a distinction between the output that was put on the screen and the fact that now it's blinking because it's expecting you to put something in that space. That's just me, maybe, but I figure a lot of people do this. This is how Python works, right? If you've worked with Python, how the raw input operation function works. So now it looks a little better. Please enter a letter A. And I don't necessarily mind this. The letter you entered is A. That's fine. I entered an E, a Q. But now you're like, well, oops, well, that too. You can enter more than one letter and it will process each letter individually. But you're like, well, okay, this is fun. How do I get out? And if you didn't have the source code in front of you, you wouldn't know that I'm supposed to press an X, but the lowercase x, right? You're like, oh my goodness, that kind of stuff. So yes, there we go. And so from my standpoint here, the user doesn't know or enter, please enter, or just put X to quit. Something like that. Now it's very clear to the user what is expected of them. So now I put A, and now some people say, no matter what you do, people will always find a way to make mistakes, no matter what they're told, me included. I seem to make more mistakes, more mistakes than others sometimes. But you might be tempted to put an X in there like that, right? Because that's what you see, and it will quit because it will process the guy here, and then it'll process the X afterwards here. That is a single quotation mark. Yep, there we go. Friday, right? It's almost weekend. So there, it processes this, and then it processes the X. Even though you don't necessarily see it, it's still hiding in the input buffer, and then it uses that X, prints out the X, and it's done. So the final thing that I see here is when I press an X, I know I pressed an X because I'm trying to quit. So maybe it shouldn't press out, hey, the letter you entered is X. So since now we know while loops, and the chapter before we've talked about if statements, maybe I can just steal this guy here so I don't have to type it all out. But if the letter does not equal X, then print before I come back around. So if I do enter an X, it'll fall through the if statement. It won't print anything out, and then it'll come back around. And then since the letter is X, this will fall through and quit. So it won't print anything now. If I go ahead and say enter a D, enter a E, enter a Q, and enter an X. And there you go. It doesn't do anything like that. So this, again, is how you do a while loop. And a while loop, you never actually have to get into the body at all, right? So like this works perfectly fine because the letter, when I start out, is anything but X. So yes, while this is not an X, let's continue on and continue on. So so that means a while loop can go from 0 to infinity times. Because if I put an X here, and I run my program, you will see nothing print out whatsoever. That's the system pause that you see there, and that's because when I hit the conditional up front here, that this is not a true statement. X is equal to X. X is not equal to, that kind of stuff. I don't want to get too complicated, but this is a false statement. So the while loop finishes off, and then we fall through entirely. So a while loop, and we'll see next week or next time as well, a for loop can be executed 0 times, and then from 0 times up to infinity, because you could absolutely have an infinite loop. So just so you're aware of that. So let me put this back to an A. So then the change here is the last thing I want to do for this example is to change this into a do-while loop. And that's basically, in this case, you're not doing much. Because I revised the code the way I did, this really doesn't need to, other than just moving the while down and jamming a do at the top, at least in this situation, the do-while is pretty much equivalent to the while loop. So let me run this again, just now that I have the do-while. Let me just prove A, B, capital Z, whatever, X, and now the program quits, and it doesn't print out the, hey, you entered an X, just like before. But a minute ago, if I set this thing to X, this thing would have quit. Like it never printed anything. But a do-while loop, because of where the while is, this is where the conditional is tested after you complete one iteration of the loop. So that's the big difference here between a while loop and a do-while loop. While loop doesn't have to be executed at all, but a do-while loop has to be executed at least 1 time because of the way the structure is set up. So it doesn't even matter that I put the lowercase x up here like I did before. You can see it's already printing the stuff out because it's right here in the code. There's no check. It's just printing and waiting for my input. And when I put X in there, it'll do everything like it did before. So a do-while loop is great for things like input because you have to input things at least 1 time. Because you're inputting something, you're waiting for the user. Like if I'm doing a search for something, or if I'm trying to, whatever, if my array was empty and I'm doing a search, well, yeah, I don't want to do any checks at all. So maybe it's great to kick out early and use a while loop instead of a do-while. But one thing to note here with the do-while, and the while as well, is that you can't put, as much as the for loop is a little different, I can't put that letter inside of here because this variable is scoped to this block up to here. So it's weird because you can do this in a for loop just fine, but if I try to access letter here, because it dies, it's basically deallocated here when it hits this closing curly brace, that it doesn't exist, and it says that letter is unidentified. So for using a while loop or a do-while loop, you kind of have to open up that variable to a bigger scope than you might want. That's just something to take into account. Okay, so I think that covers everything I wanted to talk about for this problem and setting up and all the things. So now let's move on to part 2. Okay, so here is the second problem that I want to work on right now. And so, oops, sorry about that. And so it's basically a menu asking you basically just something you would see just in text form, like if you went to like a McDonald's or something that had like a kiosk or something, as they get more and more common. So I have my hot beverage menu, I have my items, I have my coffee, my tea, my hot chocolate, and cappuccino. And right now I can press A. This is it. And it's not complete. It took me a while to massage this so that I could get this to compile, because the PDF file that I'm coming from is just a pain in the tushy to get this thing over here and get it formatted and get everything going. So but that's the whole point is, if I put A, B, C, or D, it's going to ask me how many cups of those do I want, and then it'll tell me how much money. So in this case, 4 was a default value for the number of cups of coffee. So yes, if there's 4 cups of coffee, it's going to be $4. And if I press E, it quits the program. So that's where we're coming from. And so I already did the first part here, setting up the variables. This thing said it basically I was following the instructions that was part of a comment. Just number is going to be an integer, cost is going to be a double, and beverage is going to be a character. And so the user is going to type in their choice as a character, as a letter. It's going to be stored as beverage. And then basically, hey, like, is it a valid beverage? Is it, because if I press any type of A, any type of B, any type of C, any type of D, yes, it is a valid beverage. And so, I don't have, so that's great. And then if it's anything else, that's a default. That is the valid beverage is going to be equal to false. And so this is one of those things. Switch statements just are replacements for a lot of if statements, and I'll show you in a couple minutes here that it might be possible. It is possible to reduce this code down a little bit, and we'll see what we can do. But I want to do that last because that is part of what the problem here shows. So okay, so basically then, if the beverage is a valid selection, if I pressed A, B, C, or D, then it's going to ask me how many cups, and I'm going to fill that in. And so it says read in number, so I'm gonna CN into number. I don't like that. I would maybe change that to number of cups. Maybe I will. Let's do that. Number, and make it right-click this in Visual Studio anyway. Rename, and I can say number of cups. And it will change it there, and it'll change it everywhere else it's currently used in that specific selection, in this case the file. Isn't that cool? So I don't have to worry about going in and changing it everywhere and forgetting it in one place or anything like that. So now I have my number of cups, valid beverage, cost, and the beverage. Let me rename this, since it's already done, to beverage type. And now if it asks you, you can play around with this. I've almost never had any problem clicking just apply to do for all, but you got to watch out because sometimes you might do more or less than you're expecting. Okay, so there's my beverage type, valid beverage, and if it's a valid beverage, now I can at least come in here. Come on, there we go. So now you can see here, if I do A, like I did a minute ago, it kind of just fast forwarded through everything, but now it will ask me how many cups would I like. And I could say I want 7 cups, and I'll go, hey, the cost was $7. That's great. I love that. That's perfectly great. Nothing else works at the moment, E and Q and everything else, or even B, C, and D. Like I can say 4 cups, but it doesn't do anything right yet because the code is just kind of broken here at the moment. Okay, so let's continue on then. So then you can see here, and this cost variable, as much as it's fun here, we don't need this in the top. The people who write these sometimes, like these books, are kind of writing C code, and we're living in a C++ world, so we don't have to necessarily worry about that kind of stuff here. So let's see. So coming back down here, so this cost can be a double. But that's the fun of switch statements here, is that if I don't use curly braces, let me just show you here. Like what is B, right? Let me just go down here. That's why they kind of kept it out of the, but let me just show you what's going on here. Let me try to rebuild this. Let me see what we get. And you can see here, initialization of cost is skipped by case label. And that's because when you define a variable, they're always defined in the scope, basically, scoping rules. And this cost variable is defined at this level where this curly brace is and this closing curly brace. So like anything else, I can't duplicate calling this double cost and double cost because initializing, because it's like, nope, you're initializing it here, but if it falls through to B, then it never gets initialized. So that's a pretty smart thing that the compiler writers are taking into account. So I guess in a way we do have to do that, or we write that, I don't like to combine output and calculation. So like if you want, to, I would just say go ahead here. 2 ways to do this. Put little curly braces around all your case statements. Then it gets crazy, right? If you just start doing that, because then now because you can do that. Or the other way around is just to rename your variables and just to say here, what is my A, coffee? Cost coffee instead of cost whatever. So now I don't have to worry about having the same named variables in more than one place, because now I can rename this cost T, T-E-A, not just the letter T. And now T is, what was it, 75 cents? Yep, 75 cents. And now you can see that everything will run again. Everybody, oops, wait, what? Initialization of cost coffee is skipped by case label. It's still showing this. So maybe you can't define variables inside of a switch statement like that. But I'm not. That's the thing. I'm not using it anywhere. Maybe am I using it? No, I'm not using it anywhere else. So I'm keeping this in the video just to show you that sometimes mistakes happen or errors come up that we're not used to seeing. So I guess in a way the book was right, but they put it at a level above everything else. Okay, so if I'm going to go back and fix this and make this thing work, I'm going to put it here right above the switch then. And I'm going to type in double correctly. All right, so lesson learned. I didn't know this, and I bet you didn't know that, and maybe you don't care. I kind of care. But I hate switch statements. That's probably why I didn't notice this, because I try to avoid switch statements. And languages like Python don't even have switch statements. They don't even have the word const. So just modern languages do things differently than older languages do. Every language does things differently. And so, okay, cool. So now at least I put the double cost here because it's only being used inside the switch statement. And now let's see, will it run now? Huzzah! Okay, so then now I can say I want 3 cups of coffee for $3, and I want tea. I want, let's see, 10 cups of tea for $7.50, and it prints. Yep, so that everything's printing out correctly. Great, and now I can continue on for C and D, and then let's see, hot chocolate's $1.25. Why not? And then the other one was $2.50. What was that? What is espresso or something? $2.50 for cappuccino, sorry. So now just to try this out, I already tried A and B, so let's try C. How many cups would I like? 2. There's $2.50. Cappuccino, how many cups would I like? 5 for $12.50. Yep, everything is coming out. So my A, my B, my C, and my D. But now anything else, E and quit, I don't have any code down there below to handle that kind of situation. So let's see. There's my A. I can get rid of all these nonsense fill-ins. Bring this down a little bit. And so now I have my please come again for anything that is. Well, let's just try that. Let's see what happens. I didn't notice that before. So if I put in E to quit, it goes, please come again, and it should quit. The program should halt here, but it doesn't. And if I do anything like a W, then it says try again, please, because that input is a mistake. It's an error. Okay, so okay, good. So at least from the standpoint of everything, the menu prints out correctly. I can figure out if it's a valid beverage type here. And I do something with it if it's the case. And then all of this is handled properly. So the final step in here is to say, well, how would I exit this program if I wanted to go ahead and do things? So if I pressed an E. So in this case, but this is what's crazy, right? Because sometimes you want to figure out the logic to stay in the loop. And sometimes you want to figure out the logic to get out of the loop. So this is one of those things where if, and it came back to, what did I call it? Beverage type? If beverage type, because you can't just say valid beverage, because if I type in a W or something, the program will halt if that's not true. So, there's multiple ways to go about doing this. So if my beverage type is an E, or capital E, or my beverage type is equal to lowercase e, then I want to quit. Some students put ands and things like that, but a variable can never be 2 values at once. So it can never be, the beverage type can't be capital E and lowercase e at the same time. So that and statement would never work for you. But this is an or. If my beverage is an E, oops, well, shoot. If it's not, see, this is, well, let's just try it out. It's a mistake. Let's go right to it. Here we go. So what if I press an E? please come again, and it goes. And if I press capital E, it goes. But if I do anything else now, if I do like C and I do 1 cup of coffee, it quits. And that's because it's, sometimes this is very challenging to think about. And so, like in this statement, logically to me, I go, if it's not an E, if it's not an E, now that I've thought it out, and it's not a lowercase e. The reason I'm having trouble with this is because I try never to get my logic to be this convoluted. This is like, what does this mean, right? Let's try that now. If it's not capital E and it's not lowercase e. Let's see. W keeps going. A keeps going. E quits. Oh, and I need to have a system pause and or maybe not a system pause, but at least a return 0 here. Because if I say to quit, why should there be a system pause, right? So if I put in anything R and try again, and I put a E, then the program halts immediately. Okay. But that's what we're going for here, because if it's not a capital E and it's not a lowercase e, then it's anything else, and I want to continue, because only the 2 E characters are the characters that I want to quit on. And now it said something about cost not being initialized. Let's take a look. Let me rebuild that, and let me just see where that warning is coming from. Oh, I guess we fixed that from earlier, because it was giving me, I saw a warning last time I came around, but I guess everybody's happy now. Yep, I think everybody's happy now. Okay, so that covers at least getting the program going. Let me see what the exercise is asking you to do. Okay, so fair enough. So things we can do to improve this. Let's just start working out the code a little bit here. Okay, we need beverage type in here. Let's see, number of cups. Well, let's see, number of cups comes down here. We only need that inside of here, so we can probably bring this down to wherever I define it here. And use that. Let's try. If it runs, everything's going to run just the same, and it does. So just say it runs. So okay, so I can move that down. Valid beverage. Valid beverage is only used inside of here as well. And if it runs, then it's fine. And this is just the modern way of doing things. Okay, it does run. Okay, so now things we can do. So we have our menu. We're not going to use functions, so I'm not going to worry about that. One thing we can do here is, I know I can do this. I can say beverage type equals to upper beverage type. And what that will do is it will take whatever character, if it's a lowercase character, it will convert it to an uppercase. So I don't have to have all of these statements. I can cut these things in half, because those no longer will exist. And I can do that down here as well. I just got to remember to use the uppercase ones. And that at least simplifies, it eliminates 10 lines of code, or however many lines of code here. So we're down to 76 lines of code. And then in the process of doing that, I don't have to worry about the lowercase e anymore. All that trouble I had a couple of minutes ago completely goes away, because I just have to say, if it's not a capital E, then continue on. Let's see, did I do now the question is, since I modified 10, 12 lines of code, did I do it properly? There's my A, there's my B, there's my C, there's my D. Everything's so far so good. W, quit, try again, and then E. I'll put a lowercase e in, and it works, because it converted it to uppercase and then when it got here, it fell through. And the same goes for capital E. Yes, lowercase e or capital E works just the same. Okay, so let's see. Anything else that I can see here that I can improve? Another thing here is, if it's a valid beverage, how many cups I want, and all these things and all these other things that I'm doing, is that, why should I have to worry about, Why should I have to worry about all of this stuff here? If it's a valid beverage, then I should print out all this stuff. So maybe I can move some of this into this if statement. So what I mean here is I can take this, all this here. Let me, just for a minute, let me close this off. And just kind of, I know it's hard to see what I'm doing here. But the A, the B, the C, and the D, if it's a valid beverage, it's got to be one of these 4 cases, right? Oops, let me put the cost above all this. Let me just format this a little better here. Oops, nope, never mind. The double comes out of here. Here we go. Oops, everything needs to be shifted over as well. There's a reason why I'm doing this, so just trust the process. Please trust the process. The 1 or 2 of you, or however many people are watching this. And remember, we'll just keep this here for now. Let me comment it out just so we can get this thing working for the moment. Okay. So now you can see if it's a valid beverage, I had to have typed A, B, C, or D. There's just no way around it, right? And so now with working that out, I can say, oh, okay, A, B, C, D. And so, but now the thing is, you can see here that these 4 lines of code are the same exact line of code. So we can do what we call refactoring, because there's no other cases that can occur. Like there's no E, there's no F, there's no Q, there's no anything like that. So I can bring this out of the switch statement. And then what I can do here is I can get rid of these 3 lines of code. If it's an A, then the cost is 1 times the number of cups. If it's a B, it's 75 cents. If it's a C, it's $1.25. D, it's $2.50. So I've separated the calculation stage and the output stage into, instead of combining them into each case statement, I've separated the processes all together. And just to be clear here, this C out should probably come down around. So let's try this out. So at the end of the day, I'm doing all of this code, and at the end of the day, I'm not affecting anything that the user sees. 1 cup of A, 2 cups of B, 3 cups of C, 4 cups of that, and then E quits just like it did before. So now everything that's valid, it works perfect, is perfectly fine. And so now we have to work out the cases, what happens if it's not a valid beverage. And so like this if statement, if my valid beverage is false, then I just need an else here. And then what I can say here is else if my beverage type, because I know it's not valid, but it could be E or it could be anything else. And so if my beverage type does not, or if it does not equal E, then I can print the default condition here, or I can say, okay, please try again. And the reason in this case, I don't care about the E case with any print statements is, honestly, if I press E and hit enter, I'm never going to see it print out, at least the way, maybe you'll see it in an output window, but if you're running it through a window that closes on you, you'll never see the, oh, okay, thanks, try, come back later. Or in this case, you could put it down here. Just to be clear here, you could be like, okay, thank you for your business. And then put an end line here. Because how do I know that I'm done is when I exit this while loop and I finish everything off. Because because when I get to here, my program is quitting. And if you're running it through an output window that doesn't close, then you'll see the thank you for your business. And otherwise, if you might not see it. I mean, that's fine. You just have to account for that. But I have to get. Okay, so let's see. Hot beverage window. So now I've handled the A case, the B case, the C case, the D case, and the E case. And there it is. The E closes out immediately. And if I put anything but E, it still gives me a try again, please. So there you go. So I have modified this. I'm almost completely happy. I would like to come up with a way to fix this, but I'm not going to do that. I'm already 21 minutes into this talk. But I just wanted to show you some refactoring. If you don't understand anything once I started my refactoring of all of this, that's quite all right, since this is still week 4 of the introductory class. But those of you who have done some programming before, you can kind of get a feel for what's happening here. I'm trying to simplify my code. I brought it down to 70 lines. I could probably make it easier if I got rid of all these switch statements altogether. It's just kind of ugly, but that's just what it is. What it is. So it's very possible I misspoke about something, or you're confused about something, or anything like that. Let me scroll through all of this not quickly, but one more time. And so you can see everything that I've done to finish up everything. And if I misspoke, or if you're confused, or if you have questions, please feel free, comment below, or email me at swardb@cod.edu, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. So, a lot of things covered, and especially in this one example. We have switch statements, if statements, while loops, do-whiles, all sorts of stuff, right? And now that we understand, at least we understand the concepts of these kind of things, we can now move on to function calls, where we can simplify our main function. Our main function is not supposed to be 70 lines of code. If we did this right, we could break it down into the main into maybe 10 or 12 or 15 lines of code instead of 70. The code's still there in other places, but it's more human readable because right now this thing is just kind of a sludge here, right? It is not a fun group of characters to stare at and read. All right, so thanks for sticking it out with me as always. I hope to see you guys in another video, and have a great day, and I'll see you then.